you made a great point about the prophet after death again. So, Crazy Bone, who is a Cleveland rapper, famous Cleveland rapper at that,
Yeah.
he did a he has a
Go ahead, brother.
he has a show, a radio show or whatever, and he read a letter from a music source inside the industry. It has over 1 million views on YouTube, and it's a letter basically talking about how the people in that control the music industry, they wanted to put gangster rap at the forefront over conscious rap, over positive rap in the early 90s. And they wanted to do this basically to promote and glorify violence, and we basically fell for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And see, you're touching on a subject matter that most will not deal with. For the simple fact of the matter
That's what we do here.
is that music, uh, uh, or the corporation part of music, is the genre that has perpetrated much of the destruction and the crime and the violence in our communities. And but it's a little touchy issue in which, when it's brought up, if my generation bring it up, your generation is going to say, well, what about the music that you all had in your era? And the next generation under you will say, well, what about the music that you had in your era? So we don't really pinpoint the fact that music play a great part in the attitudes and what's happening in our community, and we must address that fact. And I'm glad that Bone is addressing this, and many more rappers must address this. But we can't blame it on the rappers themselves. It's the corporate. Everything is corporate, okay? And so as until we get to the corporate source and say, corporate, we're not going to take this any longer, then the whole scenario will change. So that's really where it's coming from. Corporate America.
And music can heal.
Yes.
Music can give you love. Music can uplift your day. Music can stop you from killing yourself.
Yes.
So why wouldn't it stop you from killing people? Plenty of people have said this artist, Kid Cudi, plug another Cleveland musician. A lot of people say Kid Cudi's music has stopped them from killing themselves. It helped them get through depression. So anything, if it can get them through that, you have to assume on the negative spectrum, music can influence people. But like you say, it's a machine that's pushing this. It's a machine that's behind it. So the last point I want to get into is that, and you kind of alluded to it earlier, is that we're basically, they're using, when I say they're, the man, the system, is using reverse psychology on us, because we're defending our slow genocide. If you think about the mind trickery, the Jedi mind trick that has to occur to have a group of people grieve and then defend their own demise, justify, well, they're dying too, they're killing each other too. Poor people kill poor people. There's crime in all poor communities. That's what we're using to justify. But at the same token, we say we had it the worst. We had 400 years of Holocaust. Nobody in history went through what we went through. Nobody ever. We had the worst oppression in human history. We were used as lab rats. We were used to experiment on for surgery. We were put in zoos and made mockery of. We were slaves. We were this. We were that. There's so much trauma that we're passing on through our DNAs and different things like that. How can we say we're not going to have this self-hate against each other and have the same type of, you know what I mean, internalize that and take it out on each other. We're taught to, what do we used to call it, African booty scratchers. We don't want to. We're afraid. We're a lot of black people are afraid to go in the woods when that was our natural habitat. We're afraid of ourselves. We were taught to be afraid of ourselves. Malcolm X said, "Who taught you to hate you?" We dye our hair. We're afraid. We get these kind of injections into our body. We put all this makeup on. We don't even love ourselves. We don't even love our physical body. How can we love the inside of ourselves if we don't even love the external? So you people can't just tell me that it's not programmed for us to hate ourselves. That a hillbilly Trump supporter doing crime is the same as Pookie and Ray Ray doing a drive-by. It's not the same thing. Statistically, okay, there's a death. They end up here in the cemetery. But it's not the same thing. It's not the same motive. It's not the same envy. It's not the same hatred. I know that's a lot.
No, it's not. Coach Ginn, famous Glenville football coach, went on from being a football coach to having his own school, Ginn Academy, have 5 or 6 or 7 players that followed him, including his son that played in the NFL. He said something to me one time when we were getting ready to have a visual for one of his relatives that was killed in a gas station on Superior and Euclid. And I had been out with Ted Ginn many times before when some of his students were murdered, and he was there on the scene at the vigil. But at this particular time, I called Ted and said, Ted, we're going to have a vigil for your relative that got killed in the gas station. Ted said, Art McCoy, I don't want you to have it. He said, I don't want you to have no vigil for my relative. And I said, why, Ted? The rest of your family want to have this vigil. He said, no, I don't want to have it. Art McCoy, don't have it. He said, because I realized one thing, Art McCoy, until corporate get involved, until we make corporate decide that they want to help stop black on black crime and the killing in our community, it will never stop. And it was strange to me that he said that, but I honor Coach Ginn so much till the vigil was all set and the people were gathered at Superior and Euclid to have the vigil. And I went there and I said, no, we're not having the vigil. Coach Ginn said, don't have the vigil, and so we're not having it. They were surprised, but we didn't have it. And for a long time, those words rung in my mind, but I didn't understand it. When he said, well, until corporate get involved, it went over my head. And it wasn't until the Black Lives Matter movement came about that I finally realized what Coach Ginn was saying. And what I'm saying to you, brother, and millions of audience that's viewing it, is that until corporate, here's what Coach Ginn told me, and it finally dawned on me as I watched the Black Lives Matter movement evolve. How were they able to do that? How was Black Lives Matter movement able to do all the things they've done in such a short period of time? It was through corporate. Once corporate got involved and realized that they needed to get involved and change the system, then the system began to change. So what Coach Ginn told me that shot over my head all of a sudden hit me. Coach Ginn was right. We can do so much ourselves in the community, but we need to get corporate involved in black on black crime and killing one another in our community, the same way they are involved in Black Lives Matter movement, then we'll see the change that we're looking for. So how do we do this? We do this by engaging corporate America to say that, hey, we're going to stop dealing with you all. We're going to stop shopping with you all. We're going to stop spending money, millions and billions of dollars with you all, if you all don't help us in our fight against black on black crime and helping in our community. That's the message that Coach Ginn gave me. I know it's a deep message. It took a while for it to shoot over my head. But that's the message that we have to get out to corporate America and make them come in our community and help us as we spend billions of dollars with them.
The audience probably doesn't know this, but it's cold as hell, and my hands are locking up. Do you have any last words, sir?
The last words is, young man, I stand here in the cold with you today. As I get older, but the vigor and the fight that I have for our people in our community is the vigor of my youth, because I understand the pain and the suffering from the rappers to the mothers to the fathers to the grandfathers to all of us that we suffer in our community. And the fight will never stop until black on black crime and we get back to the peaceful days in our community. No truth, no justice, no peace. Thank you, my brother.
Anytime.